Labels matter. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the focus group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the focus group. Tim Bennett here with bad allergies, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. Man.
I thought it was your eyes the pollen was attacking.
I know,
but
now
apparently it's your throat too.
And you would think it'd been okay, considering we've been talking this morning already. We are the focus group. Be sure to find us here every Wednesday, where we stream through Facebook and also YouTube and other places where you would find content. You could find all of our content, including our podcast, TFG Unbuttoned, at focusgroupradio.com. How our show works, John and I do a little catch-up. Then we both pick a story that caught our eye during the week. We handle the business birthday, and then we have a shop talk, which is usually an article around career or sometimes pop culture, but mostly career stuff or advice that we like to share at the end of the show. So how are you, Mr. Nash?
I'm doing good and suffering from allergies as you are. Rarely does it affect my throat. It's the eyes that nail me, man. And it's usually from April into early June. I think it's tree pollen, and it's off the charts, by the way. And I read something the other day that it's a lot of male pollen is causing people issues. But I wanted to ask you, I wanted to talk about a quick thing. You saw that Dame Edna passed away this past weekend at the age of 89. Apparently, very much in full character to the end, or at least stayed very upbeat. And I think that, don't we all kind of have a Dame Edna moment? Like, you saw her, right?
I did not see her. I wanted to, and then for whatever happened,
you didn't see her?
Oh my God! The show was postponed. No, but there's some great. I posted on our Facebook page an episode where she was doing something with the royal family. I don't know if you saw it on our Facebook page.
I have to go look.
She goes and she sits with Camilla and Charles, King Charles. And the audience is laughing. It's huge. It's in some Royal Philharmonic Theatre or something in London. And the crowd's going wild, and she's sitting there, and she's mic'd up, and then somebody comes and taps her on the shoulder. And then she stands up and goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. They found me a better seat." And Charles and Camilla, good sports, laughing, the typical British humor. But there's one real, she got in trouble for being inappropriate, particularly in the woke culture.
Yes.
And there was an episode, I think I had sent you, where they were talking about bullying children on The View.
Yes.
And Whoopi Goldberg was there and a few other people, and she talked about how she adopted a baby from the same village where Madonna shops for her family.
In character as Dame Edna, right?
In Malawi. And she said, kids could be so cruel. Her name is... And then Joy, the crowd is going crazy. And she goes, and the kids at school will sometimes just call her. So she said that kids can be so cruel. And, people didn't know if you should laugh or not, but she delivers it very straight-faced in the whole deal. And the laughing hardest was Whoopi and Sherry, the other African-American woman, which then made it okay for everyone else to laugh. But she wasn't, I don't think she was being insulting, but it was just,
Typical Dame Edna, right?
Right, and she was an equal opportunity offender, but she got in trouble with the trans community, and then she kind of retired, which is what's happened to a lot of comedians. But he had fallen and broken his hip.
That was the weird thing about this.
They always say, "Don't break your hip when you're old."
Yep. The hip was a while ago, but that led to other complications, and I think pneumonia was what had set in, or what put him in the hospital. But we saw Dame Edna when she was in New York on Broadway. It was like a limited engagement. And I had read somewhere that at the end of the show, they do this thing where everybody waves a gladiola.
Right.
Wave your gladiola. The entire time she was on stage, it was like visiting with Aunt Barbara, our good friend Aunt Barbara. The back of my head hurt so hard from smiling and laughing. It was just joke after joke. And you are correct. A lot of it is sometimes inappropriate, or it's just, but it's coming from a character, right?
Yes. Yeah. There's also another, I should post them all on our focus group Facebook page. There's one where she's in San Francisco, and the two hosts, it's a San Francisco, one of the daily shows they do in the morning. And they have Dame Edna doing a cooking segment, which I've never seen her do. It's called Pineapple Surprise. And essentially what she's done is she's taken these pineapple rings and put them around sausages, and she's trying to get them in through, and all the innuendo. I mean, it was hilarious. And even the people that were trying to be serious on the San Francisco morning show were having trouble with it. But it was quite fun.
Do you think that Aunt Barbara was a little bit inspired, or at least is in the same category as Dame Edna?
I think so. I think so. I mean,
because
Aunt Barbara
some of that
was
stuff
around,
is just so crazy, right?
Right. And the innuendo, it's very much that. I did see another interview where Dame Edna said she inspired AbFab. And everybody was kind of looking at her. She goes, well, if Edna is very close to Edwina. And she said, so she thought she was the inspiration for AbFab. Who knows whether that was true or not. But yeah, she was great. There's great clips if you ever want to go watch on YouTube of her on with Joan Rivers or with the Late Show, any of the late night shows that she was on.
A classic clip that I saw that I couldn't stop laughing was she was on some Australian morning show.
Yeah.
And she's on the right side of the couch as Barry Humphries, dressed as a guy, suit and tie. In between, there was a woman, one of the co-hosts. She was African American, or she was black. And then to her left was this other guy, white guy. But he was far enough away from Barry Humphries or Dame Edna that, you could argue that maybe Dame Edna couldn't see properly. But at some point, he launches into this whole thing about how very brave you were years ago when I was on this show, and you came out and you were so brave, and everybody starts laughing, and then you hear all the crew behind everybody start laughing because the guy she was referring to was not the same guy. And then someone kind of puts him wise to it, and then he goes, well, anyway, you were very brave, and after all, it's show business. Meaning, it's all entertainment, right?
Yeah. Well, there's one she had Katie Lang on with Ivanka Trump or Ivana Trump on her talk show, and she says they're talking and talking and talking, and she's making all kinds of innuendo about Canada and beaver and all this stuff with Katie Lang. Then she says, and I need to talk to you about something that's very controversial. Audience, this was very serious, and the place goes quiet, and we just know that she's going down the lesbian route, right? So she says, I need to talk to you about something very personal. And Katie Lang even has this look of fear on her face. And then Dame Edna goes, when did you realize you were Canadian? The crowd goes wild. Just when did you realize you were Canadian?
Now you see, and right there, right, was the beauty of Dame Edna.
Right. Because everyone thought, oh, no, she's going right to the, because it was, very serious now. We need to talk about this. And it's like, oh boy, here it comes. And even Katie Lang was falling off the sofa because it was so funny. It was, when did you realize you were Canadian?
We're Canadian. Tim, I'm so glad you had that story. It's brilliant. That tops the newscaster. You were so brave for coming out all those years ago.
Well, that was the joy of her. So may she and he, Humphreys, rest in peace.
Not sure there's another one in the making, right?
No. It was fun. It was, fun character. He always said it wasn't drag.
No.
He was doing female impersonation, which...
almost like Monty Python would say.
Or a la Flip Wilson sort of thing. The female, when he did Geraldine, which was a great character as well. So, but without further ado, Mr. Nash, what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
I'm always drawn to the flea market find that turns out to be... something of insane value, right? Well, we have another one coming up here. And this is coming to us from Texas. An ancient Roman bust purchased by someone at a Goodwill is now headed back to Germany, where it originally resided many, many years ago. All right, so here's the deal with this. This bust was purchased... let's see, let me get her up here. A woman named Laura Young purchased this bust for $34.99 at an Austin Goodwill, unaware of its ancient history. She bought it in 2018. Then she decided to figure out, what is this? What's going on? She brought it to the San Antonio Museum of Art. They had someone from Sotheby's look at it, and it turns out that it was a bust that had been they believe from the city of Pompeii. They think the bust portrays a famous general named Sextus Pompey, and that it used to sit in something called, I have to get the name here, the Pompeianum, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it was a recreation in a German museum of what a house or a villa in Pompeii used to look like. So apparently...
So is it made out of marble, you think?
It's a marble bust, yeah.
Wow.
And they believe that a service member, it's believed that around the 1950s, a U.S. soldier stole the bust from Germany, this German museum, and brought it to the U.S., which is now how it ended up in the thrift store. And so for the past year, it's been on display at the this art museum, what do they call it? SAMA, San Antonio Museum of Art, because the woman who, Laura Young, who purchased it and had it identified, let them do that. And now it's on its way back to Germany, where it will be reinstated in the a museum called the Glyptothek, Glyptothek. Glyptothek.
So I'm sure there's international law around this. We may have asked this before. So so she could have just kept it in her house and done nothing, and it had been missing, and nobody would have
correct.
Known. But
yeah,
I'm guessing because it was technically, or at least they'll say that it was stolen out of Germany during the war, right?
Correct.
So she would not get any. Would she get money? She's not going to get. They're not going to pay her for this, right? So she bought. No, I don't know. I'm sure there's no value. Maybe there's a value on it, but so does she have to give it back to the museum, or out of the nicety of herself, she's saying, "I'm going to, donate this back"? Or I think with a lot of these antiquities, if they were taken or plundered during the war, I think internationally, the international laws, you've got to return them, right?
Yeah, and she did donate it, and once the provenance or the history of this statue or this bust became known, and scholars had pored over photographs as well of this museum that had this replica called the Pompeianum or Pompajan. A replica
Greek.
Of a Pompeii house.
Yeah.
Tim always gets on me for trying to pronounce words that are it's a replica of a Pompeii house.
Yeah.
Once they identified this as the bust of Sextus Pompey, then one could say it's priceless, right? Because it's from ancient Rome and it's hundreds, if not thousands, of years old. I don't know that they put a price on it, but she did relent. And she said it's really been bittersweet. I'm a little bit in denial, but I do plan on visiting him in Germany. She already says him, but for $34.99, I guess she could afford to part with it, right?
Yeah. But I just always wondered, it's like if you found a treasure chest of gold, gold coins
Doubloons.
or something, right? Doubloons. Do you have to return them and you get nothing? There was a gold cup in Philadelphia that was a rowing cup from the late 1800s, right around the turn of the century. And it was actually solid gold. It was a gold cup for rowing.
Seriously?
And it went missing. And a few years ago, it showed up at an antique store in Pine Street in town, and somebody recognized it. And they're still in legal limbo.
Trying to get the cup back.
Because they said this was stolen. And the antique dealer's like, well, no, we bought this from, But it was stolen. And so...
Tim, wasn't there a movie about the Gustav Klimt painting, The Woman in Gold? I probably got the title wrong, but it was about a famous Klimt painting that was stolen by the Nazis from a Jewish household. It ended up somewhere else, and relatives of the people who owned the painting originally fought years in court to get the painting returned, but they had to do all this proving, and yeah.
So it's one of those things. Well, yeah, I wonder. I guess she could have just kept it and put it on her mantle.
Yes, and this was
not
not one
ton.
of the. This it was a big marble. One of these things where it's like $34.99. It could look good in the garden. I wonder how much more of this stuff's floating around. But I wish they'd
I wish we'd find something.
I wish they'd find something that someone would say, "Give it back to me. Here's $1 million."
Yeah, that's what we need. We need a painting or something.
Mm-hmm. A Declaration of Independence, something from Thomas Jefferson.
Yes, I fantasize about that. So we're not going to get it though. I guess we got a better chance to win the lottery, John.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah.
The my story was different. It's actually what I teased about with labels in the opening of the show. But the headline here, this whole story just makes me laugh.
I know where you're going.
From the
this is a
absurdity
good one,
of it.
Tim.
But Belgium destroys shipment of American beer after taking issue with the champagne of beer slogan. So Belgium has destroyed a shipment of American beer after taking exception to the maker's slogan that was or is the champagne of beers. Or I guess as the French say, champagne. How do you say
Champagne.
Champagne. So Belgian crushed 2,352 cans of Miller HighLife earlier this week. The reason is that it was improperly labeled as champagne. It was mislabeled. The move came after a trade association for the champagne industry complained that the term should only be used on bottles of sparkling wine made using a traditional method in Champagne, France. So so of course, champagne only can be called champagne if it's made in France, and it must be a mix of Chardonnay, Pinot, or Pinot. I don't know the name of it. Grapes. Anyway, they said this Comité Champagne, Joint Trade Commission, had requested that Belgium just dump out this beer because it infringed on the copyright and the designation of what is champagne. The beer was headed for Germany, and it got intercepted by the European Union Commission that was checking this stuff out. And they had said the Germans aren't going to get this beer because it's mislabeled. It was labeled as champagne. When you do a little work on this, Miller HighLife, which launched in 1903, it's Milwaukee-based, has been using the slogan since 1969. This can't be the first Miller HighLife that's made its way into Europe.
You read my mind. Why this shipment?
So there's a picture of them where they show them dumping it out and whatever. This happened in mid-April. And they said they took great respect for the environment by ensuring that the cans were going to be recycled and the batch was dumped out properly, eco-responsibility, blah, blah, blah. They said each year the European Union carries out thousands of checks and designations and controlling the origin of products. And in this case, the Belgian General Administration for Customs and Excise had stopped this shipment of fake champagne, even though it's the champagne of beer. And so that's why they were able to destroy it. And
so, Tim, it's amazing to me that this is a slogan.
It's not champagne. The
champagne of beer
right.
implies the top of the heap of beer,
right.
Not necessarily that it's
It's like the Cadillac of lawnmowers. You know, I got a John Deere. That's the Cadillac of tractors, right? I mean,
and then GM's not going to come along,
Cadillac.
and crush every John Deere riding around because it's the Cadillac of tractors. I mean, it's crazy.
I thought it was a little crazy, but so that's it. So don't try to drink champagne of beer Miller HighLife in Europe.
You might get it taken away. Reminds me when Bob and I were in France, in Paris. We fell in love with this beer called Kronenbourg 1664. And we'd order it, and people would look at us kind of like funny, like, what are you getting Kronenbourg for? Finally, we are at a cafe one day, and I had this whole thing about ordering a ham sandwich and fries. But the couple next to us, a French couple, and in typical fashion, the woman they were both great looking, even though he was wearing a raggy T-shirt and jeans. She had a dress on, but they looked great. And she finally says, do you know what you ordered? I said, yeah, I think I'm going to get a piece of ham and some French fries. Yeah, that's right. And I said, in this Kronenbourg 60, I said, this is like the best stuff. She goes, actually, that is very equivalent to your Budweiser in the United States. So we dropped that one real quick. No more Kronenbourg 1664. Yeah,
that's like I went to England with Scott Mogren. And a friend of mine, and he's like, "What imported beers do you have?" They're like Bud Light, Michelob, but he goes, "No, imported beers, Bud Light, Michelob." I was like, "Scott, we're in England. Of course, he's in London. We're in England." Same sort of thing. So.
And Mogren, I could see. And was that the trip with the saucy tour guide?
Oh yes,
on the bus.
Yes. Who did it? Yeah, what? Yeah, that was the thing about the Christopher Columbus statue. Anybody know anything about Christopher Columbus? Yes, he founded the greatest country in the world, the Dominican Republic. That's what he founded.
That's where he landed.
No, the Americans. No, America. America. Where are you from? Lady in the lame coat. Where are you from? Dallas. Scotland? No, Dallas, Texas. I knew that. Perhaps the bus should stop here. Perhaps the bus should stop here in front of Muhammad's, otherwise known as Herod's,
Herod's. Lady in the limeade coat.
The woman in the lame coat.
The lame. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we have a business birthday for you. We're the only show in the universe that does business birthdays. We've been doing them for 15 years. We've got quite a collection, by the way. And we have a shop talk about Tim Cook and how he deals with criticism. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. We are The Focus Group. Learn all about us at focusgroupradio.com. You'll find all of our media housed there at focusgroupradio.com, including our Tuesday podcast, TFG Unbuttoned. So without further ado, Mr. Nash, we have a business birthday today.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
You know, John, no one else does business birthdays, I don't think. And after we've done them now for 15 years, I always try to find something new. I think I found a new one.
You sure did. I love this.
With this one, one that's been a running joke on the show here for quite a while. Also, with Little Britain, I think there's a little skit about one of the
Bubbles
the
de
products,
Vere.
Bubbles de Vere. So, born today, April 26th in 1925, was Michele Ferrero.
Ferrero Roche.
Ferrero. He died at 89. He was an Italian billionaire businessman.
No, he died at the age of 98.
Oh, 98? Did I get it wrong? I got dyslexia.
No worries.
Was it 89 or 98?
What says here? Let me do the math.
What did I write down right? Did I write it down right? Yeah. Either way, he was old. I thought.
Well, it's if I did the math, it's 90. But
well, then it was 89.
Okay,
This
there you
beat
go.
him to
89.
April. Yeah, 89. This is my dyslexia. I probably sent it to you wrong because I have a habit of doing that, particularly with addresses. But sorry about
and
that.
an age.
Right, he died at 89. So, but he owned the chocolate manufacturer Ferrero in Italy. It was Europe's second largest confectionery company at the time of his death. It was developed from a small bakery and a cafe that his father had in Alba in Italy. His first big success was adding vegetable oil to traditional chocolate and hazelnut, which became the popular spread we know as Nutella. So they were very famous for Nutella. He also, the company also controls the brands of Mon Cherie. Remember that? It was the chocolate-covered cherries.
I do, yeah.
Kinder Chocolate, TicTacs. I had no idea TicTacs were
Little
Italian.
Tic-Tacs? Okay.
Yeah. Did you know that?
No, not at all.
I had no idea. I thought that was an American thing. So Kinder Chocolate, Kinder Eggs, TicTacs, and Ferrero Rocher. He is doing well. So
Ferrero Rocher.
Ferrero Rocher, those little gold wrap-ups candies
that you
Bubbles
can
de
get
Vere.
at most
Costco, pretty much anywhere.
CVS,
CVS, Walgreens, right? Same with the Mon Cherie chocolates.
I never say no to a Ferrero Rocher, though.
Really, I haven't had one in years.
Oh, Tim, they're great. And
Are
they
they
always
good?
appear at the holidays, right?
Yeah, well, they're around all year round now, too, at the Costco. So I'll
Okay.
have to pick up a little. Maybe
your Costco is way better than our Costco.
Yeah, I'll have to pick up a couple for you. So he was a devout Roman Catholic, and he made an annual pilgrimage to shrines and erected statues of the Virgin Mary in all of the factory buildings he owned. He was married, 2 children, Giovanni and Pietro. And when he died, he had left the business to the boys. When he died at 89, he died at his home in Monte Carlo, Monaco. What a place, huh, Monaco?
You've been to Monte Carlo, right?
I haven't. I would love to go. Have you ever been there?
On. You haven't been to Monte Carlo?
No, never been to Monte Carlo. Have you?
Yes. I went to Monte Carlo. We stayed at when we were in Nice. Which is really close drive to Monte Carlo, and it's just yachts and sports cars. It's exactly what you think, like from an old Hollywood movie. So,
yeah, Mark, our friend Mark of Mark and Carl, listens to a radio station out of there, which I tune into now and then. You can listen to it on the internet. It's hilarious. And
Yes.
it's called Radio Saint Tropez or something, or Radio Monaco, and
Radio
it's
Monaco.
in English. It's in English, which is even better. But and the advertisements are hilarious. The music's great.
Yes,
So,
the music's you turned me onto this actually.
Yeah.
So that came from Mark. Okay.
Yeah, Mark had found that. So from when he used to live in France and in England. So when he died, when Ferrero died in 2008, he was worth $26 billion, and he stole Italy's richest person title from CEO turned prime minister Silvio Berlusconi. I had no idea Berlusconi had so much coin.
Neither did I.
The former
No.
prime minister. They say he was crooked. I don't know. According to, allegedly what it says here. So yeah, happy birthday to Michele, because I had to go to see how to pronounce it.
Michele
in Italian.
Ferrero.
Spelled Michele. Michele Ferrero.
Michele Ferrero, and he did
Owner.
Nutella and Ferrero Roche.
Nutella, if you thank him for Nutella, TicTacs and Ferrero Roche, and the Mon Cherie chocolate-covered cherries. Yeah.
Mon Cherie.
Mon Cherie.
Mon Cherie, it's like the name.
Matt
My
used to
Cherry.
love those. I used to buy those
Mon
all the
Cherie.
time. Mon Cherie. Yeah, it's, the chocolate-covered cherry. I love those. Do you like those?
I do. Yeah. It's
Well,
one of
there's
the only
not a
times I
chocolate
actually
you
like-
don't like, is there?
I don't like milk chocolate too much. Ferrero Rocher is milk chocolate, but it's mixed with the nuts and other things. But
yeah. See, I like.
I don't usually
chocolate.
say no to chocolate in general, but I like it when it's like 72% dark chocolate.
Yeah,
Not too
I
bitter.
can't eat that. That's bitter. I
No,
think that's bitter.
no, bitter is 80%. You should. Oof. Yeah.
It's like eating the powder, right?
It's
That's
like eating
tough.
baker's chocolate. When it gets super bitter.
I love
but,
one time you said you didn't like milk chocolate. Bob's like, don't let him kid you. If it's there, I'll eat it. Because I'm like,
Bob
oh, I'm
is the
sorry, I got
worst.
milk chocolate. Don't worry about it. He'll eat it.
He'll eat it. Yeah, thanks, Bob.
Don't let him kid you. So celebrate. Go out and get yourself some chocolates in honor of Mr.
Michele.
Ferrero. Michele. The shop talk John had teased before we went into quick break comes from our friends at CNBC, and it's related to Tim Cook. And I saw this headline, which I thought was interesting. It said, Tim Cook uses a one-sentence mantra to process criticism. Without it, he says he wouldn't be able to function. When John and I started way back when on SiriusXM, one of the big first pieces of advice we got from the folks in programming were like, don't read your reviews.
Ooh.
They said, because it's so easy now to go on and throw people off. And there's always going to be someone who doesn't like you. There's always going to be someone who doesn't think you're correct on something or doesn't like your opinion. And that's fine, but it's so much easier now to just whip something out, right, and tap, 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 and type it out and really just throw people off. So this was related to how Tim Cook deals with criticism, and particularly as the leader of Apple. He said he faced widespread skepticism that he could effectively fill Steve Jobs' shoes. He recently told a reporter in an interview with GQ. He said the criticism didn't stop there. Cook has since faced backlash for his pay package, his return to work policy, and his idea of innovation. To an extent, it's part of the job, he said. When you run one of the world's biggest companies, you're bound to make decisions that some people find unpopular. And so he said he needed to find a way to deal with this criticism. Do you want to reveal what...
Yeah, he
he said
summed
about
up his approach in a single sentence. I try very hard not to take things personal that I don't think are meant to be personal. Of course, that's easier said than done, even when criticism is delivered kindly, and on the internet it rarely is. It can threaten the crucial human psychological needs of safety and self-worth. And that's according to a best-selling author named Joseph Grenny, writing in the Harvard Business Review. So this is an interesting one that you picked up because he uses the word criticism, and I think that's correct, but I would actually push this into the category of critique.
Right.
And that's where you're having the work judged and not the person doing the work. So like this is a really hard one for people in the arts or in film or in advertising. And I will say, Tim, that you were actually when you were being presented with things at Subaru, your whole team was pretty great about it. I don't know if Tim coached people on this, but they would often sit very politely and look at all the presentations. Now and then they might ask a question. Tim never did. He waited to the very end to weigh in, and he would say, I want you to show me this again, And that last one, could we try this headline with, you know, but it was always something productive. It wasn't like, you know, it's bad. Now, the one time that falls off the wagon was when I was driving back to the city after that direct mail presentation. How do you think you did today? But I think Cook is right. You have to try your best to step away from critique or criticism and disentangle your emotion from it, because you might not be the subject of the judgment. It might be something you did or you created. Now, I know it sounds like that makes it very personal, but did I get that right?
No, you did, but I often struggle with this sometimes, because a lot of times business is personal, right?
Yes.
When you want to work with people, and we had a listener one time that called and made the comment, you know, don't let the details get in the way for people who want to do business together.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of times if you meet somebody or you think you can work with a particular vendor or agency or employee, there has to be some sort of chemistry. And so I do believe that some of this is or can be personal. But I would also, there were times when I used to go into an auto dealer and have to tell them you're going to cancel their franchise.
Oh.
And which is their lifeblood and livelihood in some regards. But if, you know, for whatever reason, and we'd always couch it with, this is a business decision. This is we have to look at this as a business decision. We're not attacking you. We're not going after you. But it's easy to say, right? You just tell somebody you're going to take something, you're going to cancel something from them, or they've lost their contract. It does become personal, I think, because it has effects on a lot of other people. So I would always struggle with that a little bit and try to make it as much a business decision and not a personal thing as possible. But in many ways, things that do happen or things you do affect people personally. So,
well, you know, picking up on that, you know, many listeners know that for 8 or 9 years, Volkswagen was our primary partner and sponsor on the focus group when we were on Sirius Satellite Radio. And I want to just let you know that the length of that relationship is highly unusual in corporate America. I mean, it only happens with Mobile Masterpiece Theater or, you know, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, like these long-term things. We had a huge, you know, this was a long-term thing. And we got a call one day from their head of marketing or media, and she's like, you know, it was not a call she wanted to make. It's exactly what Tim is talking about. She's like, we just got a call from Germany that we have to cut. It was something insane, Tim, like $100 million out of their budget within 3 days. And that sounds more like it's going to be an axe than a scalpel. And a lot of stuff was falling by the wayside. And, you know, the minute she said, I hate to do this, but we're going to have to, like, you know, not sponsor you guys, Tim immediately said, hey, I want to thank you guys for letting us represent one of the most iconic brands in the world. It's been an absolute pleasure. We love working with you guys. We're always here. You know, you could reach us. And then she turns around. She's like, you need a reference. You have someone call me. And that never, ever happens in corporate America. So not only do you have to hear this stuff, like we weren't being critiqued on our ability to represent the vehicle. It was just like Tim said.
We got tied up in the economics. Yeah, we got tied up in the economics of it.
And someone had to make that call. They didn't want to make it, but we made it easy for them because you should be that gracious and that straightforward. So.
But it affected us, you know. It did become very personal because it affected us and all the other things that go with it, right?
But you and I didn't take it. We didn't take it as a bad thing.
No.
I mean, it does have a personal effect, but we knew, and we heard from them that they were, you know, really upset that they had to do this, and a lot of programs hit the dirt. So, you know, you roll with it, right? But back to Tim Cook's thing. You got to do that parsing and sorting. You got to think about, is this personal? Am I really being attacked for a point of view or who I am, as opposed to something I've created or a decision I've made? And it's a really hard one to parse and sort that. And I think, don't we still struggle with that? And here we are, like, mature in our careers, right?
Yeah. The other thing I found out about him, which I'm shocked about the article, was his net worth. Based upon the stock he has, right? $1.9 billion.
In dollars.
With a B.
And, you know, something about
that kind of money, you can let anything roll off your back.
Yeah.
Right?
Tim, yes. There's something about Cook that's fascinating, too. You know, prior to him taking the reins at Apple, they were very, very, very neutral about philanthropy. They didn't give money. They didn't do a lot of things.
They don't even have a sale.
No, true. And so he took the reins and he began actually a program at Apple to begin looking for philanthropic stuff and contributions. And that opened the floodgates, and and he got some criticism for that because it's something that Steve didn't do. Why should you do it? So could you imagine stepping into the shoes of one of the most iconic business leaders and visionaries of our time? And you have all these expectations on you, and he brought the company to a level that Jobs could only dream of at this point. I mean, if you're around.
Yeah, he's one of the few, I think, that has gone into, because it's that founder syndrome thing, right?
Yep.
So he's one of the few people I know in business that has been able to continue and grow. Because many times the person who goes in, you look at General Electric or a few other companies where they've had somebody that was the heir apparent go in, and they just are not what the expectation would be from the person that was there.
You're thinking of Immelt after Welch, right?
Right. And then there were issues with people going into General Motors after, a certain leader or something. Some of these big corporations. It's difficult to step into the shoes of someone who's been highly successful.
Well, look at Disney. Bob Iger, Bob Chapek, now back to Bob Iger. And the board literally was, you have to go. We need this guy back.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So good job, Tim Cook, because a lot of people didn't think he would survive, right?
I agree. Yeah.
So.
All right, folks, we're going to wrap it up there. We want to thank you for joining us here on the Focus Group. Be sure to go to focusgroupradio.com to check out our partners and sponsors, and that would include Deep Discount. You can pick up a lot of packaged media, records, books, games, all sorts of things there. Just click on their logo, and that is a way of them knowing that we sent you. I want to remind everybody to please don't text and drive, arrive alive. That's what hands-free technology is for, although I have to confess that sometimes when I dictate a text, it comes out completely not what I wanted, but that doesn't make me look at the phone. The car's talking to me. All right, everybody have a great week. Please stay safe, and we'll see you in the new one.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.